Madam Vice President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the Coordination Committee of Special Procedures has requested me to deliver the following statement on behalf of the Special Procedures mandate holders of the United Nations Human Rights Council. Over the past few weeks, we have witnessed a wave of protests across the Syrian Arab Republic, in other countries of the region and in other parts of the world. These have been peaceful calls for democratic reforms and respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. The special procedures have received reports that serious human rights violations are being committed today in Syria. The government security forces and the army have used disproportionate and indiscriminate force. Tanks and other artillery have been deployed. There has been sniping and indiscriminate firing of live ammunition into peaceful protests. Acting under orders, forces are shooting directly at people without warning. This has led to the death of several hundred people. We have stressed that this use of force is in clear violation of international law. Firearms may only be used in self-defense or in the defense of others and in strict compliance with the principles of necessity and proportionality. We call upon the government of Syria to immediately stop the use of deadly force and protect its own people. We call upon the government to respect its human rights obligations, in particular with regard to the non-derogable right to life and the right to be free from torture and ill treatment. The protests mark the Syrian people's desire to claim and peacefully demand their human rights, including the rights to freedom of expression, peaceful assembly and association. Not only has the government violently suppressed this right of peaceful protesters, it has arbitrarily arrested human rights defenders, journalists and bloggers. These actors play a crucial role in monitoring recent events and in informing the public. We have called upon the government, as we do today, to release immediately all those who have been arbitrarily arrested and are now detained. The government also appears to have restricted the exercise of the right to freedom of expression by limiting access to communication media. We call upon the government to seize this. We remind states that to seek accountability from government and call for reforms is entirely legitimate. The special procedures of the Human Rights Council express concern about reports of shortage of food and water, inequality in the distribution of food, and denial of access to medical treatment. We urge the government to ensure immediate access to these economic and social rights and basic services, including health facilities, water, food, electricity, and other basic amenities. Madam Vice President, the special procedures, including myself, have been able to observe firsthand through recent country visits that underlying grievances are rooted in a lack of respect for basic civil, cultural, economic, political and social rights. This includes discrimination, lack of participation of all parts of society, including women, in political and public life, and lack of accountability. Since the protests began, the authorities have committed to reforms. They have lifted the state of emergency in place for more than 5 decades, and they have committed to regularizing the situation of stateless Kurds. These are welcome steps. The real test, however, will be whether the government follows through with these and other reforms and whether it delivers on its human rights obligations under international law. We call for meaningful, inclusive and transparent dialogue with the people as these reforms are being implemented. The President of the Syrian Arab Republic and the government should also commit to holding accountable those responsible for the human rights violations that have been committed. This should include any high-ranking officials and authorities implicated in human rights violations. There should be reparations and there should be compensation to victims and the members of their families. The special procedures, as independent human rights experts of the Human Rights Council, call for an independent, transparent inquiry to investigate the violations. We urge the government to cooperate fully with the special procedures and we encourage the government to extend a standing invitation to mandate holders to undertake country visits. On behalf of all special procedures, I wish to reiterate that we stand ready to assist the Syrian Arab Republic and other states in their efforts to engage in social, economic and political reforms to build a democratic society that fully respects the rule of law, human rights and fundamental freedoms. But most importantly, we call for the use of violence to stop now. Thank you.